she's doing some kind of art and craft, and now she's going to put a flamethrower to Christmas, and here we go. Isn't this at the heart of the fracturing of society today? We don't have a grander vision for where we've come from. We don't have a grander vision for who we are. We don't have a grander vision for the bonds of entangling love and community that constitute us. We don't have any of that. We just have you do you. Hello, I'm Glenn from Speak Life. We like to see all things through the lens of Jesus. Today we're going to have a look at Marks & Spencer's Christmas ad. It's not their entire Christmas ad, I don't think. I think there might be future Christmas ads that are going to come out, but this is for their clothing and home department, and it has received much criticism, and I think we're going to see why it's received much criticism. I think we're also going to see there might be a take on this that saves it, maybe, but I don't think really in the end. And I think what's wrong with this ad is wrong with the world, okay? This is why we can't have nice things, and we'll see why. So here we go. It released on Twitter, at least, with this bit of copy. Sound the klaxon. Our clothing and home Christmas ad for 2023 is here in November, which is interesting, isn't it? Like, officially in the church calendar, Christmas begins on December the 25th, and then you have 12 days of Christmas. But in a consumerist world, Christmas begins on the 1st of November, apparently, and it's all about kind of indulging ourselves and having the most bling Christmas we possibly can, so that literally by the afternoon of the 25th of December, we are done with Christmas. We are through. We are completely, loosening the buttons of our Christmas clothing, and we write off the next 11 days of Christmas. I think that's interesting about how Christmas is getting earlier and earlier. Well, because the shops want it to be earlier and earlier, and consumerism demands that it be earlier and earlier. And let's see what consumerism makes of Christmas. So here we have Hannah Waddingham. She is the girl boss owner of Richmond FC in Ted Lasso. But she's overwhelmed by Christmas. Look, there's just so much to do, and is it really worth making a snowman out of glue and cotton wool? There's Tan France, who's apparently famous. I've never heard of him, but there he is. And, oh dear, eye roll because of the decorations. Zoe Ashton, I didn't know about her before this ad, but there she is. She's an actress. She seems to be having fun, though, doing charades. Sophie Alex Baxter. She's doing some kind of art and craft, and now she's going to put a flamethrower to Christmas, and here we go. And you see Noel, the French word for Christmas, and it is being torched in front of us. And the backing track is Meatloaf's I Would Do Anything for Love. Now, that might come in handy if you want to give it a redemptive twist, this video. There might be a redemptive twist at the end, because you know the redemptive twist in the song. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. And you think, well, what won't you do for love, Meatloaf? I thought you'd do anything for love. Turns out in the song that he would not cheat on her. The woman in the song sings, sooner or later you'll be screwing around. Oh, I won't do that. The one thing he won't do is betray love. So there might be a redemptive twist to this. Have you considered that? There might be a redemptive twist to that. That actually, as they are deconstructing Christmas, there might be a foundation. We might hit rock bottom. We might have a foundation for the kind of Christmas we will have at the end of it all. Is this all deconstruction? Are we left cast adrift as atoms on the sea of consumerism? Or does this little film end with a rock bottom? Does it end with a foundation? Does it end with something that we can cling on to at the heart of Christmas? Probably not. But if you're desperate to put a positive spin on this ad, you might see that. But here we go. Sophie Alex Baxter is torching her Christmas cards, because who can be bothered sending Christmas cards? Because that's about connecting with people, right? And catching them up on your news, and then they catch you up on their news. That's about kind of bonds of love and friendship. We're going to put a torch to that, aren't we? Oh, she loves it. Hannah, no, can't be dealing with... Oh, but she's got the drink. There's Tan. Oh, he's going to throw away the board games. Okay, so board games are a brilliant part of Christmas, aren't they? Board games are where you sort of come together, and hopefully you don't play Monopoly, because that would take the 12 days of Christmas. But, hopefully you can kind of play Pictionary, and maybe you'll still have a functioning family at the end of Pictionary, although that might not be likely. But board games bring you around into this kind of common experience of life in the family. But did you notice, even though they've got board games here, they don't actually have any children? Even though Zoe Ashton is doing her charades, like it's all grown-ups. Everything is a very adult, very middle class, very well-to-do Christmas. And okay, so that's the M&S demographics. They're just pitching it at the adults. But it's adults who have forgotten children at Christmas. Look, I'm a Christian, so I'm used to saying to people, look, Christmas is not about the children, it's actually about Christ. And I'm used to that. But this isn't even about children. It isn't even about family coming together. It isn't even about personal connections between people. All of that has to go in the fire because, well, why? Let's see. Into the fish tank. He feels better. Oh, Elf on the Shelf, baseball bat. Actually, deconstructing Elf on the Shelf, I can fully get on board with that. Elf on the Shelf is taking the moralism of Santa and cranking it up to kind of Chinese Communist Party levels of surveillance. The Elf on the Shelf is there to report back to Santa and to see, you know, he really does see you when you're sleeping. He really does know when you're awake. He's watching and waiting to spot your mistake. That is Elf on the Shelf. So if we are going to deconstruct anything from Christmas, this is one thing I can get on board with. Well done, Zoe. And Hannah is about to shred Christmas crowns. And isn't it interesting? What happens with Christmas crowns is they turn into glitter. And what is glitter? Glitter is fragmentary, shiny glitz. And there is nothing to it. There is no substance to it. There is no connection to it. It is utterly atomized. And the only good thing about it is, well, look how pretty it looks. It dazzles, right? And is that what Marks and Spencer's in this ad are doing to Christmas? They are kind of atomizing us, but at least it glitters. And they've gotten rid of, it's not just that they've gotten rid of Christ. You know, again, as a Christian, I'm used to saying, don't take the Christ out of Christmas. And what's the joke? You know, if you take the Christ out of Christmas, all you're left with is M&S. And M&S won't save you, right? Well, guess what? M&S, when you zoom in on what they've got for us, they don't even have children, they don't even have tradition, they don't even have family, they don't even have connection. They've got atomization, radical atomization, to the point where all you're left with is glitter, and all that glitters is not gold.
This Christmas, do only what you love.
This Christmas, do only what you love. Wow. And I think they've done a brilliant job of summarizing this life philosophy. This Christmas, do only what you love. First time we've seen a child there. Look, she's quite happy about the atomization of all the Christmas hats. The destruction of all Christmas hats apparently makes this girl happy. But doing only what you love does not make us happy. Do you remember the Simpsons Halloween episode where Homer is given an ironic punishment in hell? And of course the ironic punishment is to give him only what he loves, right? And so you have this demon of hell saying this.
So you like donuts, eh? Well, have all the donuts in the world!
Do only what you love. And I love them all. And of course, the joke is, if you are force-fed with only what you love, that would be hell for you. The twist in The Simpsons here is that Homer is actually made happy by being given only what he loves. But this is a fantasy. This is not how life actually operates. This Christmas, do only what you love. It is the incarnation of you do you as a Christmas sentiment. And yet, if Christ said, you do you at Christmas, you know what would happen? We wouldn't have Christmas. Christ would remain in heaven, and we would be left to our own little desires that enslave us and imprison us and diminish us and eventually kill us. You do you is not a life-giving message. This Christmas, do only what you love. In a context where there just aren't children, there isn't family, where you're not writing to people, where you don't have the board games, where you're in connection with other people, where apparently having fun playing charades is the thing you need to be saved from, you do you is a terrible message. And let's see what people are saying in the comments. Because underneath on Twitter, there has not been a lot of love for this ad. Let's put it that way. For instance, Bobby just says, "I don't get it." And some poor intern doing the social media for Marks and Spencer has said, "This year's ad is about recognizing that we all have different Christmases and reminding people that it doesn't matter how you celebrate. Just do what makes you happy. Love hearts." And how are people responding to that? There are 1,200 comments under that. I mean, the whole video has been ratioed. It's something like 2,000 quote tweets and about 300 retweets. And how many comments? We've got going on for 9,000 comments underneath. Here are some of them. "This is terrible. Sack the ad agency. This doesn't fit your demographic." Does it or doesn't it? Because what's interesting is they have all the economic incentives in the world to give us a message that is perfectly fit for Marks and Spencer's demographic. Okay, whatever you say about how cynical their view of Christmas is, you have to assume that they're good at marketing. You have to assume that they at least want to give people what they think people want. They're doing them, right? This Christmas, they are doing what makes them happy, and what makes them happy is reaching their own demographic. This ad is, to some degree, a mirror to where our society is at. It really is. Mike says, "So nothing matters anymore? Traditions don't matter? Culture doesn't matter? Just do what makes you feel happy?" Well, nothing in the advert recognizes people who hold Christian values and who enjoy the true spirit of Christmas. It's truly awful. I think that's a comment that applies more generally to sort of supermarket Christmas ads down through the years. It's not even that it doesn't hold Christian values. It doesn't hold human values, this ad. Get ready for a ratio and a boycott. You know what a ratio is? If the quote tweets are far higher than the retweets, then you know you've got a whole bunch of people saying, "Get a load of this nonsense, it's terrible," right? And that's what a ratio is. And a boycott, he reckons, well, we'll think about the boycott in just a second. There is only one Christmas, and it is the Mass of Christ. You ought to allow this Christian nation to celebrate its holiday without being an apologist. Have some grit. Richard Morris says, "Oh yes, I'd forgotten. The spirit of Christmas is all about being self-centered, silly me." And you just do get that sense, don't you? That even in the other advertisements that talk about Christmas spirit, at least the Christmas spirit is Scrooge recognizes that, he needs to be a selfless human being rather than a selfish person. And even Scrooge, though it's not explicitly Christian, is Christian-ish in its assumptions. This is just purely consumerist. You do you. This Christmas, do only what you love. And this is where we're headed. Oh, she loves it. Love thismas, not thatmas. Now, often Christians complain about when people take the Christ out of Christmas, and, when people send me Christmas cards and it's got an Xmas, I don't think that's crossing out Christ. X, the Greek letter chi, is the first letter of Christ in Greek, and it's commonly been an abbreviation for Christ, so I don't mind so much Xmas. But love thismas is fascinating because, we get rid of Christ and we insert this. And it's this sense of, if an alien comes to planet Earth and says, "What is this Earth thing you call Christmas?" And Marks and Spencer just says, "Well, it's this. It's whatever this person wants to do. It's whatever this person wants to do. It's whatever this person wants to do." The alien is none the wiser. What is thismas? Thismas is whatever you want it to be. And it's just this hall of mirrors. And all of a sudden, you don't have a thing that Christmas is. It's just whatever you want it to be, you do you. And isn't this at the heart of the fracturing of society today? We don't have a grander vision for where we've come from. We don't have a grander vision for who we are. We don't have a grander vision for the bonds of entangling love and community that constitute us. We don't have any of that. We just have you do you. And it's absolutely tearing us apart. It's thismas, not thatmas. And it's so interesting that a true Christmas, a Christmas that's far more recognizable to us, is a Christmas in which, if you come to the Scrivener household, we do Christmas in a certain way. If you go to my wife's family, they do Christmas in a certain way. And we've all had to kind of wrestle with and negotiate with the different Christmases that people like. But you don't at that stage say, fine, I'm going to go off to this room, you go off to that room, you go upstairs, and we'll have our separate Christmases and just tweet it all with the hashtag love thismas, not thatmas. That is no recipe for a society, not even a family. What you need to do is, if you come to the Scrivener household, you're going to get a Scrivener Christmas. And we're probably going to play Pictionary, even though it will end in tears. And we're probably going to go for a walk after Christmas lunch. And that lunch is probably going to take place at a certain point because we want to see the King's speech, and etc., etc. And if you come to our Christmas, you are welcome, but it is not a sense of inclusion, okay? And here's what this video kind of teaches more broadly about society. I think society says we are all atomized individuals. We are all like individual chintzy bits of glitter. And if we can kind of swirl around together and the light is right, it looks dazzling for a moment. But that's who I am. That's who you are. We are atomized individuals who can swirl around in a moment of spectacle. But that is not what a society is. A society is woven together as strands of interdependence. And therefore, a Christian virtue is to welcome you into my Christmas and to say, I know it's a bit awkward. You might not like charades. You might be mortified at the idea of acting out in charades. That's okay. You can sort of nurse your mulled wine in the corner and just enjoy it along with the rest of us. We're not going to change charades. We're still going to do charades, but we're not going to have a doctrine of inclusion that says, okay, charades is off because, you know, Betty doesn't like charades. We're not going to do that. And we're not going to take a baseball bat to certain traditions just because one or two people don't like it. Everybody is welcome to take part in a thing that already has a shape, that already has a direction, that's going someplace. So Christians are fully on board with welcome. I think that's a fully Christian idea for a society, welcome. We are not on board with inclusion. Inclusion is founded on diverse, atomized individuals who all equally have a voice. And if you all equally have an atomized voice, you end up with cacophony. With welcome, you actually have harmony. You actually have a song that we're meant to be singing. And there's a thing that predates us that we fit into. We don't constantly smash and deconstruct and take apart, okay? That is what we really need as a society. We need welcome, not inclusion. We need community, not individualism, right? And we need a Christmas that is already in existence, something that we submit to in order to actually be free. If you come to a Scrivener Christmas, you're going to do things our way by and large, but you're going to be much more happy fitting into the warp and woof of our family than if you go off by yourself and get a meal for one from Marks and Spencer's and sit, you know, with it on your lap as you watch your own YouTube videos. Okay, you're going to be far happier submitting to something that is already there. And there is something that's already there. Okay, there is already Christmas. We already have Christmas. Okay, we have this thing, and at Speak Life, we're always doing these Christmas videos in which we're focusing in on the thing that has already been given to us. And like a nativity scene is just a beautiful picture of the cosmos, really, because you've got angels above and you've got animals down below. Those shepherds on the hillside next to Bethlehem. And you've got the Magi from the east, the nations. And it's this idea of heaven and earth, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile, orbiting around Jesus, the light of the world. And it is the most unifying vision humanity has ever had. And the idea of taking Christ out of it and then keeping the traditions, apparently that doesn't work. Apparently you take Christ out of that and then you still try to have traditions that are Christless. You end up not only getting rid of Christ, you end up getting rid of all that is human. You end up getting rid of all that is relational and freeing. You end up getting rid of what is truly nourishing about Christmas, which is coming in on a world in which Christ is at the center. Now, I said that there might be a redemptive moment in this film. Let's see the last 8 seconds. Okay, so she picks up the elf on the shelf. Oh, that broken elf on the shelf, she saves it, she nurtures it, she protects it. Now, is it that she has found something of Christmas to keep? Something, like of all the things to keep, it's not elf on the shelf, but is it that this weak, broken, discarded thing is going to find a home in the love of Hannah Waddingham? Is that what's... Now, I don't think that's what's going on. But let's imagine that there is a redemption of this ad, and in fact, at the end of deconstructing everything about Christmas, we found love. We've found welcome. We've found nurture. We've found provision and protection for the weak and the marginalized and the poor. And this is what she wants. But the trouble is, like, look at that grin at the end. Is this the grin of a woman who is wanting to nurture and protect the weak, which is right at the heart of a true Christmas? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And we can't be sure. We cannot maintain the Christian virtue of welcome, of nurture, of having a place for the weak and the marginalized at our table. We cannot maintain that without Christ. And I think it is a fool's errand to try to deconstruct everything about Christmas and somehow still be left with anything recognizably compassionate or merciful or kind or loving. I think what we will end up with is just these atomized individuals. Now, Christians are kind of the problem here because, and I speak as a Protestant, but wasn't it the Puritans that actually banned Christmas, 400 years ago? Wasn't it the Puritans who did want to deconstruct Christmas and strip it all back to what is most essential to Christmas? There is an iconoclastic Protestant instinct to bring us back to what is most essential. And I've heard plenty of talks in which the preacher will say, the shepherds and the magi, they weren't there at the same time, and they're not three kings, and there probably weren't just three of them, and they weren't kings, and they're called wise men or magi, and it probably wasn't a stable, and they just strip back. And they hope that we can strip it back to Christ and just leave you with Christ. But yeah, that can be a dangerous thing. To continually deconstruct. You've got to end up with some solid ground beneath your feet. And I think the solid ground beneath our feet is indeed Christ, but Christ given to us within a scriptural vision for heaven and earth united, Jew and Gentile united, rich and poor united. And I think we should be very reticent of smashing with a baseball bat every aspect of Christmas because we might think it's just traditional and not truly biblical. I think in so many ways Protestants started this, and at some point we need to put away the baseball bat and enjoy the inheritance that we've been given to celebrate Christmas in that way. One final thing. Of all the criticisms that have come Marks and Spencer's way, one of them they have actually kind of capitulated on. There were people who complained that this was an anti-Palestine advertisement because at one point on their Instagram, they put a still from the video out in which there are a bunch of Christmas hats that are on the fire, and they are red, silver, and green. Very traditional Christmas colors. And yet people thought, hey, doesn't that look like a Palestinian flag? Let's put a Palestinian flag up next to this image, and I'm sure at once you will see it's just an absolute dead ringer for a Palestinian flag. But here is the Jewish Chronicle reporting on this. The Christmas crowns were red, green, and silver, colors commonly associated with the festive period. However, as the Palestinian flag comprises 3 horizontal stripes in black, white, and green, and a red triangle, some social media users accused the retailer of acting insensitively. M&S deleted the Instagram post and published a statement saying, "Today we shared an outtake image from our Christmas clothing and home advert, which was recorded in August. It showed traditional festive colours, red, green and silver, Christmas paper party hats in a fire grate. While the intent was to playfully show that some people just don't enjoy wearing paper Christmas hats over the festive season, we have removed the post following feedback and we apologise for any unintentional hurt caused." They back off instantly. Now, as the Jewish Chronicle says, M&S has been subject to anti-Israel boycotts for decades. The retailer was founded in 1884 as a collaboration between Polish-Jewish businessman Michael Marks and Yorkshire-born cashier Thomas Spencer. They have been subject to anti-Israel boycotts a lot, the Marks and Spencer's people. And at the first hint of anything looking like a Palestinian flag in the fire, which it doesn't, all of a sudden M&S cave. And of course you're going to cave if you don't have a kind of a civilizational heft behind you. If all you've got behind you is this Christmas, do only what you love. If all you've got behind you is you do you, then you are absolutely a cork on the tide. And anyone who comes along with a heftier vision for society and the world is absolutely going to push you around left, right, and center. And that's everybody. Like, if we in the West only have a sense of you do you, then there will be people who have a much stronger vision for who they are, where they've come from, and what they're about. And our atomized society will absolutely bend to any and every vision that is stronger than it, which is pretty much any vision, to be honest. Later this month, we're having our Remembrance Day commemorations. Armistice Day, the day of the signing of the peace treaty after World War I, is on the 11th of November. Remembrance Sunday is the next day. So Remembrance Day this year falls on a Saturday, and since the terrorist attacks that Hamas made on Israel, there have been pro-Palestinian marches on these Saturdays, and there is one planned for the 11th of November, and it will be around the cenotaph. And there have been Palestinian flags draped over the cenotaph on previous Saturdays, and here we have this clash between a culture that's has celebrated Remembrance Day, has remembered certain things on that day, and then a protest that is going to happen. And here we have a civilizational clash. Who is going to win in a civilizational clash if our civilization is so ephemeral? It is like glitter. We are just atoms blown on the wind, and all we prize is spectacle and you doing you. I remember 20 years ago on Remembrance Day in Australia, I was in the car listening to Triple J, which is the equivalent of Radio 1 in the UK, just the sort of the national broadcaster for sort of rock and pop. And so at about 10:59 on the 11th of the 11th, this radio announcer gets on and he says, in a minute, there's going to be 2 minutes of silence, which is something that lots of people have valued down through the years. And if that's you, then you might want to turn off the radio now, because here's the latest one from Foo Fighters. And out plays this song, and I was like, that's fascinating. In order to say you do you, you simply can't have a remembrance. You can't have an act of remembrance anymore. And nowadays, if all our highest ideals are just self-actualization, then we can't have nice things anymore. This is why we can't have nice things anymore, okay? It's because of you do you. And it destroys not only Christmas, it destroys culture. And it does not make us free. It makes us atomized, blowing in the breeze, a spectacle of chintz, rather than somebody woven together into a story that was there long ago, a story that we submit to, a story that we surrender to. And in the story, we find wholeness. In the story, we find welcome. In the story, we find meaning. In the story, we find ourselves, but not by doing ourselves. We let Christmas do us, and that's where freedom is found. Now, if you want to explore more of what this Christian story is, we've got a great course for you to do online. It's completely free. It's called 321. If you go to 321course.com, it's a Christianity 101. You come in on the inside and you see life again according to Jesus. We'd love you to check that out, and I'd love to see you on the next video. Thanks.